Hi everyone, welcome. I am kicking off Crafty Meraki's new release with a fabulous stamped die set, Enchanting Hugs. This is a large and gorgeous stamp. I have a 5x7 card for you, and it has been done up in Copic coloring. I began by stamping the image on coral cardstock with Versamark ink. This is a large image, so I made sure that the ink was applied liberally, and then when I stamped it, I used a pressure tool. Gold embossing powder was applied to the panel. Because it is so large, I would have been better off doing this over a sheet of copy paper rather than a coffee filter. But miracle upon miracles, I somehow managed to get all of that powder into the filter and not all over my work surface. Cardstock that I'm working on is medium weight, about 80 pounds. And so as I melt the embossing powder to help minimize the warping, I am applying the heat to both the front and the back of the panel. The stamp has a coordinating die which has been lined up to the image. In addition to this large, fabulous hugs image, there are also 3 words. These can be used to tailor the large sentiment for either a thinking of you or a birthday card. Because I'm coloring on colored cardstock, you'll notice on that scrap piece of cardstock that I've tested the colors that I'm going to be using. If you're going to try this out, I strongly recommend that you do this. The ink color in combination with the colored cardstock that you use can really alter the final result. I played around a bit getting my color combinations, and I've already done one section of this image before I proceed with the rest, just to get an idea of what it's going to look like. I'm going to continue by completing all of the coloring of the letters. I sometimes can get a little bit confused when images are overlapping other images. And so by doing the letters first, it just helps to really make things clear to me which are the flowers, which are the leaves, and which are the letters. I really liked the red tones on the coral paper. And so everything is going to be done in different shades of red with the exception of the leaves. The darkest red combination is going to be reserved for the letters and the berries. I'm working with R39, 37, and 32. And I'm tackling the coloring of the letters much the same way as I would when coloring the flower. I dissect it. For this section that I'm working on right now, I used a lighter tone for where it would be branching off to the next section. I hope that makes sense. So what I've done is I've started off with my darkest tone, and I've applied that to either side of that section of the letter H, but skipping over where it would connect to the rest of the letter. And feathered the dark tone out with my mid-tone, and then I colored in that area that I had missed out before. Section that I've just completed, the highlight is vertical and done with R32. Little bridging piece, I'll work darkest to lightest starting at the base and work up towards the top with my lightest tone. And then the letter is completed in the same manner as the first section. To get a nice smooth blend between the 3 tones, I am applying the color 3 to 4 times. The ink is being feathered on, and so what that means is that there is more pressure applied on the outside so that the ink is more concentrated. As the ink is pulled out, the pressure is lessened, and there is less ink. This will make it much easier to blend the next color. Of course, you could go for a completely different look and just do a solid color, and that would look awesome as well. I wanted my letters to have a dimensional look, and so that depth is created through shadows and highlights. Because I wanted the letters to have a rounded, almost puffy look to them, I found it easier to color the H and the U with its more vertical lines. I had to sit with my thoughts for a bit to figure out how I was going to tackle the G and the S with its rounded aspect. I did a fairly heavy shadow area at the base of each of the letters and then left a highlight right at the top. But in terms of tackling the overall coloring, I continued with shadow areas on either side of the line of the letter and maintaining a highlight down the center. In this way, I was able to keep a dimensional look that was cohesive and consistent for all 4 letters. I found most of my time was spent coloring the letters. Because the surface area was quite large, I had to really pay attention to the blend and make sure that it was nice and smooth. The rest of the elements are small, and so they are a lot more forgiving and quicker to color. Next, I'm going to color the leaves. I'm going with dark blue. I think it provides a nice contrast to all of the shades of red that are going to eventually be on this image. I color darkest to lightest, so I'm starting off at the base of all of my leaves with B99. That is a very, very deep blue. As I work towards the tip of each of the leaves, my mid-tone is 95, and then my lightest one is 93. The area of the leaves is small, making the coloring quick and easy. I find it most efficient to work on multiple leaves at a time. I tend to focus on a grouping of leaves, do all of those, and then move on. And as I work, if I notice that any of the color is sitting on the embossing, I'll pick it up with my colorless blender by just running it right along that embossed line. And now for the berries, I'm using the very same markers that were used for the letters R39, 37, and 32. I simply start on the left-hand side of the berry, place my shadow area, the R39, and then work to the other side to my lightest tone, R32. I've chosen 2 different color combinations for the flowers. In addition to the one that I'm coloring now, there are 2 other flowers that are done in this lighter tone of red. I'm working with R24, 21, and 20. When coloring flowers, I work petal by petal. These images are smaller, so I'm able to apply first all of my dark tones, then all of my mid-tones, and finish up with the highlight area for the entire flower. The 3 larger flowers will be done in a slightly deeper tone of red, working with R29, 27, and 22. And even though these flowers are larger than the other ones, I'm still able to do all of my shadow areas, midtones, and highlights at the same time. Working petal by petal, the surface area is small, and this is quick and easy to color. And with my coloring complete, I'm going to pop this into my spatter box. I'm applying Distress Stain Tarnish Brass with a fan brush. I am a big fan of dimension on my cards, and I have used the coordinating die to cut black sheet foam. When applying the adhesive to the back of the die cut, I make sure that it has good coverage right across the entire panel. It is just about in 2 pieces, just joined together in the center. I particularly focus on making sure that adhesive goes right around the perimeter of both halves. The last thing I want is any part of this panel lifting up from the foam. It is easily lined up to the foam die cut. Whenever adhering anything to foam, the drying time can be a little bit longer. I pop my MISTI on it and set it aside to let it dry. Initially, when the image was stamped, there was also 3 additional words. I've decided that I'm going to create a birthday card, so I'm using 2 of them, Happy Birthday. Cutting out the main image, the 3 words were die cut at the same time. And also when cutting the black sheet foam, the main image plus the outlines for the 3 words were also cut out. So what I'm saying is the work was done, so all I have to do is stack them. Large foam backed image is going to be adhered to a 5x7 black side folding card base. The foam back panel is centered on the card base and the happy birthday adhered to the center. And I've embellished the card with lots of gold pearls, some placed directly on the image and some on the card base. To help those pretty clusters of berries stand out, they'll be finished off with Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew. Right now it is cloudy, but when it dries, it'll be clear and those berries will be nice and shiny. And that wraps up this card featuring Crafty Meraki's Enchanting Hugs from the Meraki Blooms release. This is but one of several new stamp die sets, all gorgeous. Be sure to check them out at craftymeraki.com. Thank you so much for stopping by, and as always, I appreciate your visit.